All right. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lunch Table Sports Podcast. In today's video, we'll be going over our top 5 NBA players at each position. Starting off with point guard, I think this one's pretty obvious. My number one is Steph Curry. Steph Curry took the scoring title this year. He hasn't fallen off at all from his MVP years. The Warriors struggled a little bit. He didn't really have much help around him other than Draymond, Wiseman with injury, Clay with injury. But I definitely think the Warriors will take a step up next year with a healthy Clay, and Steph will just keep putting up the production.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's a no-brainer here. Steph Curry, 32 points per game last year, 5.5 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and 1.2 steals. He also put up a career-high 62 points in a game. I think he would have taken home MVP if it weren't for Jokic's great year. So any other year, I think he's the MVP. He led that Warriors team to the play-in game. They didn't make the playoffs, but they were really close. And just like you said, healthy Clay come back next year. They're going to be right back in that playoff race and competing for a championship.
Yeah, exactly. My number 2 is Luka Doncic. Doncic is a 6'8" point guard. He's very rare of a player of that size, his ball handling, his shooting. He kind of does it all out there for the Mavericks. He averaged 8 rebounds, 8 assists to go along with 28 points a night. He led that Mavericks team to the 5th seed. He didn't really have any help around him this year with Kristaps being on and off. You never knew what Kristaps you're going to get. And I just think his playmaking ability, shooting, his defense, his all-around game puts him right there at number 2.
Yeah, I like that. I got him a little further down. My number 2, I got Damian Lillard. He put up MVP numbers last year, 28 points per game, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. Didn't really have much help, just like Luka, like what you just said, basically all on his own. You saw what he did in the playoffs. He came up short, but still unreal performances every night. We talked about it in the last episode, some trade places he might go. The rumors were kind of shot down by him, but it's going to be interesting what happens to him in his career in Portland going forward.
Yeah, right there, I got him there, my 3rd player. Dame. He has CJ McCollum. They try to make an effort to surround guys, but they just brought in like average guys like Robert Covington. He's a good defender, but not really the offensive game Dame needs. They get brought in Derrick Jones Jr. He was kind of a disappointment, but I definitely want to see Dame traded this offseason. I think he wants to stay. That's what he's been saying, but I just hope he finds somewhere where he can actually have a legitimate chance to win and reunite with another superstar.
Yeah, we're kind of going right after each other here. I got Luka Doncic at number 3. 27 points per game last year, just like you said, 8 rebounds or 8 assists per game. He was 4th in assists per game, and he was 4th in triple doubles, and he's only 22. He's the future face of the NBA for sure. I think he's the next coming, the next big thing in the NBA, and for a long time he's gonna be one of the best players.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 4 here, I got Chris Paul. We're seeing what he's doing with the Suns team. The stats don't show it. He's not. He can definitely score. That's not his game though. He just elevates the game. Everybody around him, like Devin Booker. Booker took a huge step up this year because of Chris Paul. That leadership on the court is just so valuable. He's the perfect point guard. He does it all out there. He's a floor general. But his ability to elevate everybody else's game around him puts him right there at 4.
Yeah, I love Chris Paul too, but I got him a little bit further down. I got Kyrie, number 4. I'm a big Celtics fan, so it pains me to put him here, but I think you can't put him any lower. He's, in my opinion, the best ball handler of all time. He missed most of 2020 with an injury. We played 54 games this year, averaged 26 points, was in the 50-40-90 club. I just think he's too skilled and too good of a player to leave out of the top 5 point guards. And he played kind of shooting guard, you could say, this year with the Nets. And James Harden was the primary ball handler, but we're just going off main positions, and he's a primary or primary point guard, and his main position's point guard. I got him at 4.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm looking here at 5. My fifth one is Trey Young, but I'm gonna switch it. You convinced me with Kyrie. I'm moving Kyrie to 5. My original argument was he didn't play enough games this season. You know, you can't really rely on a guy who's will go off and then will randomly just sit out for a month. But I just think he's too talented to leave off the top 5. He was 54 to 90 club, which you said that's very rare in a player. Um, I can't say that he elevates everybody else's game around him because he struggled with the Celtics to bring them to a finals, and he has star power around him with Harden and Durant. But I think him individually with his handles, his shooting ability, his overall talent as a player puts him right there at 5.
Yeah, we got the same players in our top 5. I got Chris Paul at 5. You talked about him a little bit. Um, he elevates everyone around him. Every team he's been on, he just makes them better. Came to the Suns. I mean, in my opinion, it wasn't really talked about enough this offseason when he got traded there. They were the 2nd seed coming into the playoffs. Averaged 16 points, 8 assists. Just like you said, he's a perfect point guard, does it all. Distributes the ball, knows when to get guys the ball. He's been a huge part to DeAndre Ayton's development and how good he's been in these playoffs and this year. D-Book, he's gotten so much better this year. I just think he's one of the best leaders of all time, and he's got to be top 5 for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to the shooting guard position. My number 1, I got James Harden. You could say James Harden played point guard this year for the Nets, which he did. But overall in his career, he's been more of a 2 guard. This year, he took a little bit of a step back in points, assists, and rebounds. Or he actually had a step up in assists. But that's just because of the star power around him with Kevin Durant, Kyrie. You could even throw in Joe Harris in there, Blake Griffin. We already knew his scoring was going to go down, but his playmaking, he actually stepped up. He elevates game around him. He struggled a little bit in the playoffs. He couldn't quite get over the hump that he got into, but I think he's too talented to not be number 1.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. James Harden, just like you said, he played point guard really this year, but he's primarily a shooting guard or naturally. Averaged double-double this year with points and assists, had 8 rebounds. He showed how good of a playmaker he is this year, which I didn't really think he got to showcase in Houston because there wasn't as good players around him. But obviously, you're gonna get your assists up if you're playing with Kyrie and KD all year. So I think he's for sure clear-cut number 1 shooting guard in the NBA.
Yeah, no doubt about it. My number 2, I got Devin Booker. He's just unstoppable on the offensive side of the ball this playoffs. He's a great 3-point shooter. He averaged 25 points a game this year, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Although his points dropped from 26 to 25, I think his all-around game rose. He's been playing better defense. Before the season, he was really kind of a liability on defense, but this year he's definitely become an above-average defender. His playmaking has took a step up. I've seen when Chris Paul's gone out of the game with injury against the Lakers, he kind of filled that point guard role, and they moved campaign to the shooting guard because of his ability to play make. And I think a playmaking guard like Devin Booker who can shoot like he can puts him right there too.
Yeah, I got him a little further down. I like Devin Booker a lot though, but I got Paul George at number 2. He gets so much unnecessary criticism. I mean, he wasn't great in the bubble last year, but I mean, this playoffs he showed how good he still is. He's been so good for so long. He doesn't get enough credit for how good he is, and I think that Clippers team with Kawhi, if Kawhi was playing, I think they would have beat the Suns and be in the finals right now. He was unreal in the playoffs. During the regular season, he shot a career high 41% from 3. Just shows how good of a shooter he is. I mean, he's one of the best scorers in the NBA right now, and he's got to be up there. I mean, people give him so much hate, but he's my number 2 for sure.
Yeah, I got him down a little bit longer, but I agree with you there. All the points you made. My number 3 though is Donovan Mitchell. You saw, as everybody calls him, Spida Mitchell. he took a huge step up for the Jazz this year. I mean, they're the 1 seed in the NBA. I don't think anybody saw that coming this year. Um, his ability to lead an offense and score at the rate he does is just there's nobody like him. His dunking ability, he's a smaller shooting guard. He's only 6'2", but he can definitely hold his own out there, and that puts him right there at 3.
Yeah, I like Donovan Mitchell a lot. Number 3 though for me, I got Devin Booker. Just like you talked about, all the things you said, I agree with. I mean, he's one of the best scorers in the NBA. That Suns team's in the finals right now, and he's the best player on that team. 6-7 games last year, 25 points per game, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. And I think that those 4 assists don't really do justice, just like you said, to how good of a playmaker he is. He's a better playmaker than the stats show. He gets guys open. He draws double teams to him, finds the open guy. I think he's a clear cut number 3 in my opinion.
Yeah. For my number 4 though, I got Bradley Beal. I mean, he's definitely the best scorer out of all these guards. He was second in the NBA for points scored. He had 31 points this year. The year before that, he had 30. Him and Westbrook, I think if you put a little more defense around them, and maybe add some more shooters, then the Wizards can be really good. But personally, I would like to see him traded to another team. I think it's not really working out there with the Wizards. I think if you put him on another team, then like the Nuggets have been rumored to trade for him, and the Celtics could potentially do a Jaylen Brown, Bradley Beal swap. I think you put him on a different team, then he'll show you the ability to be clutch in the playoffs. So that's why I got him at 4.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like Bradley Beal a lot, but my number 4, I got Zach LaVine. I think this might be a little high for him, but I just like him so much. He's one of the most athletic guys in the league. He showed how good of a scorer he is this year. He posted a career high, 27 points, 5 assists, or 5 rebounds, five assists, and 42% from 3, which is great. And he was recognized for his first All-Star appearance. He's the sole reason. I mean, they had Vucevic towards the end of the year, but for why that Bulls team was even kind of relevant, they don't have a good team around him at all. And I think that if they don't build a good team around him, get another star in there. I mean, they try to bring in Vucevic, but I'd like to see him go somewhere where he can win now. And he's one of the great young players in the league, and he's really underrated in my opinion. So I got him at 4.
Yeah, he was right outside my list. I don't know if I could put him over anybody that I have, but definitely made a great argument for him there. My number 5 I got is Paul George. Paul George is probably a top 5 two-way player in the NBA. He plays great defense, one of the best defenders in the NBA. And he's a great scorer. And definitely the thing with him, I think people were starting to write him off as a player. People were calling him washed. They're saying he wasn't good anymore. He can't be clutch in the playoffs. But he proved everybody wrong in the playoffs. Kawhi went down with injury against the Jazz, and everybody thought the Jazz were going to come back against the Clippers, but Paul George just shut that idea down. He went off against the Jazz. He took them to the Western Conference Finals, pushed it to 6 games against the Suns. And I agree with you when you said if they would have had Kawhi Leonard, they totally would have won if Paul George kept up the level he was playing at. And he's really everything you can ask in a player. Scoring, defense, that puts him right there at 5.
Yep, agree with that too. Rounding out my top 5, I got Donovan Mitchell. Just like you said earlier, I mean, he gets better every year. He's super athletic, super good scorer. He's good at all 3 levels. He's 50% from the field this year and led the Jazz number 1 seed. They didn't do as well as they wanted to in the playoffs, but future is really bright in Utah. I mean, they got Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, that tandem, and they got Jordan Clarkson, who won 6th Man of the Year. They got some really good young players and some good role players there. They're just a great all-around team, and they're really deep. And all these guys continue to get years under their belt and get experience in the playoffs. I think that for years to come, the Jazz are going to be right up there in the top of the Western Conference.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's going to continue to blossom into a player, and we'll see what he does. Moving on to the small forwards, My number one small forward is Kevin Durant. I mean, we just see his scoring ability. He's definitely top 5, if not top 3 scorer of all time. His mid-range shot, he can just pull it off from anywhere in the court, and it's unguardable. He's just his length, his size. He's a great defender. He's a great playmaker. I think he's the best player in the NBA, and he's right there at number 1.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I got Kevin Durant at number 1. I mean, obviously the argument can be made for LeBron. I mean, everyone knows who he is and what he is as a player, but I think right now and as of last year, Kevin Durant is the best player in the NBA, and he showed that in the playoffs. I mean, they came short against the Bucks, but they didn't have Kyrie Irving, and I think that next year they're going to be the clear-cut favorites to win it all, unless some trades happen or something like that. But Kevin Durant is my best player in the NBA and the best small forward too.
Yeah. My number 2 is LeBron James. We saw he struggled in the playoffs without AD. He was a I didn't really like his attitude in the playoffs, and we saw him leave the bench early before the game even ended. I think he definitely needs to work on his sportsmanship in the playoffs. But other than his attitude and all his off the court issues, he's a great player. He's my number 1 player of all time. His ability to play that point forward role, there's nobody like him. He's a point guard and a 6'9" body. He can score, he can rebound, he can play great defense. We've seen in the past his ability to take a team with really nobody to the finals. That 2018 Cleveland team with George Hill, J.R. Smith, LeBron, Kevin Love, and Tristan Thompson. That team would have been one of the worst teams in the NBA without LeBron, but LeBron's skill set carried them there. And I don't think there's been a fall off, and I don't think there will be for a long time. I got him there too.
Yeah, the 1 and 2 are pretty interchangeable for me. They're the clear-cut 1 and 2 by a long shot, and I mean, you got LeBron there. I agree with you completely. I mean, I'd say before this year he's the number 1. Maybe next year he gets back there, but didn't have as great of a year this year. The Lakers had to play in the play-in game. I mean, him and AD weren't really healthy for most of the regular season, which is, I think, AD needs to figure it out because he's getting hurt all the time. And LeBron needs them to compete in these playoffs because all these Western Conference teams, they're all young and they're all getting better. So I think that if AD can't stay healthy, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there, but LeBron, he's not going to fall off. He hasn't had a fall off, and I think next year they're going to be right back to competing for a title.
Yeah, no doubt about it. My number 3, I got Kawhi Leonard. He was hurt this postseason. People say, he doesn't love the game because he takes load management, but I don't believe in that. I think he's a great player. He loves the game of basketball. He's I think the best 2-way player in the NBA. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. He can score the basketball. We saw what he did 2 years ago with the Raptors. He completely changed that organization, took him to the finals. He can lead a team. He's leading the Clippers. I think next year with a healthy Kawhi, and if Paul George can keep up the level he was playing at in these playoffs, then that Clipper team could be scary.
Yeah, I got Kawhi there too. These top 3 are in a league of their own. Clear-cut top 3. We'll see what happens with Kawhi this offseason if he goes back or goes somewhere else. I think he'll stay in LA. The Clippers were without him, they made it to Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. I think with him, just like we said earlier, they're in the finals right now. Just like you said, he's the best 2-way player in the NBA. He can score, defend at a high level, can do it all. And there's no one else really like him. So he's definitely number 3 for me.
Yeah, coming in at number 4 for me is Jason Tatum. He took a huge step up this year. He went from a star to a superstar level in the NBA. He's a great 3-point shooter. He was in the 3-point contest. He's one of the best shooters. He can take it to the rim. He can dish it out. He can rebound. He can play defense. He can do it all. And he's the next generation of superstars in the NBA.
Yeah, we've got identical lists right now. I got Tatum there too, number 4. I'm a huge Celtics fan, so I love Tatum. He's the face of the Celtics and one of the faces of the NBA for the future. He's right up there with Luca as one of the best young players in the NBA. He has such a bright future. He can do it all. I mean, he's people compare him to KD. He's not. I don't think he's there yet, but I mean, he's got such a great future and such a high ceiling. I think he can get there. He's such a great scorer. He can score at all 3 levels. He can do it all. He's a serviceable defender too. Not elite, but he's above average, and he's that face of the Celtics team, and he's going to lead them for the years to come.
Yeah, no doubt. Rounding out my top 5, I got Chris Middleton. He had a little bit of a disappointing regular season than he has in the past, but this postseason, he definitely made up for it. There's times this postseason where he's been way better than Giannis. He's a great shooter. He's not the best defender, but he can hold his own out there. But his shooting ability, his scoring ability, before this postseason, I really just labeled him as a shooter and not really anything more than that. This postseason, he's completely proved me wrong. He's shown the ability to get to the rim, scored all 3 levels. That puts him right there at 5.
Yeah, I got Chris Middleton right outside my top 5. In my opinion, he's too inconsistent. I mean, sometimes he's one of the best players in the NBA. It seems like in some games he goes off, and then the next game you don't notice him. So I think if he gets more consistent, plays good in every game of these playoffs, and next year too, he'll be right there in the top 5. But for me right now, I got Brandon Ingram 5. Pelicans underachieved this year, but I think with a new coach next year and all those young players, they're going to be right there for playoff contention. He's one of the best scorers in the NBA, one of the best young players. He's got a super bright future. Him and Zion are the face of the Pelicans right now, and for years to come, they're going to be competing for playoff spots for sure.
Yeah, he was outside of my top 5. Move on to the power forward. I think this is an easy one. I got Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, we've seen his ability to take a team like the Bucks and just completely turn them around. He came into the league, with a really skinny frame. He's completely transformed his body in a matter of 6 years, and he won back-to-back MVPs last year. I think he was a little inconsistent in the regular season. Some games he would play really good, and the next game he would struggle a little bit. But I think if this offseason, if he can develop a 3-point shot, that he would be deadly. But his ability to shoot, not shoot, kind of leaves a gap in his game. We've seen teams foul him just so he can go to the free throw line, which he's very inconsistent at shooting his free throws. But other than that, his defensive ability is one of the best in the league. His scoring in the inside the paint, he has a pretty nice jumper around the paint. Not a 3-pointer, but he has a nice mid-range shot. But that puts him right there at 1.
Yeah, he completely agree with you. Giannis number 1 for sure. He's a clear cut. Back-to-back MVPs. I mean, he's showing how good he is in these finals. Carrying the Bucks and these 2 wins. The first 2 games they lost, it seemed like he was the only player playing out there. Didn't really get much help. But just like you said, if he develops that 3-point shot, I mean, we've said it for the past 3 years, but if he can keep developing it, he's got better every year at it, but just keep developing, he's going to be absolutely deadly, just like you said. And he's gotten better at those free throws, gotten a little bit more consistent, but just keep working on those. And I think, one of the best inside scorers in the NBA, one of the best defenders. I mean, you see his presence in these finals and what he can do in the paint, and he's definitely number 1.
Yeah, no doubt. My number 2, I got Anthony Davis. He was hurt a lot of this year. He missed a lot. He only played in a couple games in the playoffs, but I think overall, he's a great player. He can knock down the 3 just like a guard. He can play great defense. Last year we see how big of an impact he had in the Lakers and LeBron. The Lakers missed the playoffs the year before, and then they brought in Anthony Davis, and then they won the finals. Definitely, he was a huge impact on that team, and I think next year he'll have a bounce back year.
Yeah, I got Anthony Davis just below this, but he gets hurt too much for me, and I got to go with a guy that's a little bit more reliable. I got Zion Williamson. I mean, he gets hurt too, but he played more last year. A little bit of recency bias, but I got Zion at two. One of the best young players in the league, one of the faces of the league for the future. Got better in his sophomore year. He had a career high in everything: 27 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 61% from the field. And there's been rumors of him being unhappy in New Orleans, but I mean, we'll see what happens there. I mean, I don't really see a trade happening right now, but we'll see. And I mean, you got to have him in the top five, and for me, he's number two.
Yeah, I got him right there, number three. Um, he gets hurt too much. I mean, that size of his and his weight and him going up for insane dunks all the time definitely takes a toll on his knees and ankles. But this year he proved to stay healthy. Most of the season, he had a great year from his rookie year. He was an all-star starter, and I just think he'll keep going up from here.
I mean, yeah, just like we both said, I mean, Anthony Davis and Zion. I mean, I think Anthony Davis is the number two, but just from last year alone, I got Zion there. Number three, I got Anthony Davis. So like you said, I mean, both these guys, they get hurt a lot. I mean, if they just gotta find a way to stay healthy, and they're both going to be really good. But Anthony Davis, he's more proven than Zion. I mean, we've seen what he can do and how good he is. Helped that Lakers team win the finals last year. He's been one of the best players in the NBA since he came in the league when he was on New Orleans. Everyone knows who he is. He's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's one of the best defenders in the league. Can score from everywhere. Can back you down. He can shoot from three. He's athletic. I mean, he can do it all. So he's definitely number three for me.
Yeah, good points. My number four, I have Julius Randle. His ability to carry that Knicks team to the 4 seed, which I think nobody saw coming, was very good of him. He definitely took a step up. He has a great 3-point shot for somebody that big. He can take it to the rack. He plays great defense. I would have had him over Zion, but just he was terrible in the playoffs. He couldn't shoot. He really couldn't do anything out there. He's kind of getting shut down by John Collins in the playoffs. But I think definitely next year we'll bounce back to that regular season Julius Randle, and we'll see what he can do.
Yeah, I got Julius Randle just below this one, but I got Domantas Sabonis here. He goes pretty underrated for me. He doesn't get enough credit, but he's that best player on the Pacers team. Led them to these playoffs last year. For the first couple games or first month of the season, he was right up there for MVP candidate even. He cooled off, but still an all-star player. He led the power forward position with 12 rebounds per game, 20 points, 6 assists, and he had 48 double doubles. I mean, he's the face of that Indiana Pacers franchise, and he's going to be the face for years to come.
Yeah, for sure. I got him right there at 5. He was fourth in the NBA in rebounds at 12. He had 20 points per game, which was a career high, and he had 7 assists. He's 6.7 rounded up to 7. But for someone that big to have a 7 assists is amazing. He had a bunch of triple doubles this year. I definitely think the Pacers need to make some trades and try to build around him a little better. He's still young. He is going to enter his prime in a year. He's at 25. But he's definitely one of the more underrated players in the league.
Rounding out my top five, I could put Julius Randle here. I've gone back and forth just now in my head, but I got Tobias Harris there at number 5. Didn't have the best playoffs either, just like Julius Randle, but he's still that. I think he's that number 2 option in that offense with Joel Embiid. He's such a good scorer. He had 19 points per game last year, 7 rebounds, and he had 4 assists. And he was one of only 3 players in the league to post 50, 40, 90 shooting splits. He had an all-star caliber year. Wasn't in the all-star game, but I think he easily could have been. He's been so good for so long, and he's just like Sabonis. He's super underrated. And he didn't get He didn't have the best playoffs, like I said, but I think he's going to bounce back next year for sure.
Yeah. Moving on to centers. My number one is the MVP, Nikola Jokic. Jokic just makes everybody around him better. He's the best passing big man in the league. He plays. He's all right on the defensive side. Not great, but all right. He can shoot the ball. Like very good for a big man. One of the better shooters in the NBA. For being a 7-footer, but Jokic just carried that Nuggets team. Past the Trailblazers in the playoffs without Jamal Murray. He really only had Michael Porter Jr. to go along with him and Aaron Gordon. But I think the Nuggets will take a huge step up next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to have Jokic out of the net number one. It was him and Joel Embiid as the two top centers in the league. I mean, they were right neck and neck for a little bit. MVP voting. Jokic pulled away in the end, but yeah, he just like you said, he makes everyone around him better. He's such a good playmaker, great passer. He's one of the best passing big men of all time already. And Jamal Murray was hurt for this year, so I think the Nuggets weren't as dangerous as they could have been. But with Jokic, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, that team's going to be really, really good for years to come. And he's the best player on that team, so that just shows how good he is.
Yeah. My number two, though, I think it's pretty obvious, is Joel Embiid. I mean, Joel Embiid was the front runner for MVP for pretty much the first half of the season before he went down with injury. But, I mean, Doc Rivers definitely changed his game. Before the season, Embiid would really just hang out around the perimeter and take a bit too much threes for his size. And instead, Doc Rivers said, "Hey, if you're 7'1", and you weigh over 260, there's no way you should be shooting threes like this." He moved him down to a paint, to primarily a paint player, and he definitely thrived there. Took a huge step up, and I think his game will continue to get better.
Yeah, I got him right there too, number two. Um, he's right up there. He's got like Rudy Gobert type defense and Karl Anthony Towns type offense. So I mean, he's the most complete center in the league. He can back you down. He can shoot the fadeaway. He can shoot the three too. He can be a defensive player of the year candidate, in my opinion, in years to come. He's the best player on the 76ers team. He's the face of the franchise. He's one of the best young centers, young players in the NBA, and he's going to be like that for years to come. An MVP candidate, or candidate next year for sure.
Yeah. My number three is Rudy Gobert. I mean, he's the best defender in the NBA, no doubt about it. He was huge on the Jazz. I mean, nobody can drive to the paint against the Jazz just 'cause of how good of a paint beast he is. He protects that paint. Led the NBA in blocks. He's huge on that Jazz team. He can provide some offense. He's a bit of an underrated offensive player. He can't shoot, but he can back you down in the paint. But his defensive ability puts him there at three.
Yeah, I like Rudy Gobert too, but I got him a little bit further down. I got Karl Anthony Towns here. He wasn't that healthy last year, but I think everyone knows how his potential and how good he can be and how good he has been in the past couple of years. He's one of the best offensive centers of all time. He's one of the best shooting centers of all time. Not the best defender, a little bit lazy on the defensive side, but I think he can work on that. But I think he's way too talented to leave past three, and he's the clear cut offensive big man in the league.
Yeah, I left him out of top five just because he doesn't really play a ton of defense, and then his injury problems are huge. He can't really stay healthy. My number four, though, is Bam Adebayo. He plays great defense. He has a great offensive game. They traded Hassan Whiteside 2 years ago, and then ever since then, he's gotten a starting role, and he's just flew with it. I mean, he was a huge part of that Heat team last year in the finals on that Cinderella team. And him and Jimmy Butler are definitely one of the best duos in the NBA.
Yeah, I got him right there at number four too. Bam, he's that second best player on the Heat team. He's a huge part to why they were so good in the bubble last year. They disappointed this year in the playoffs, but I think they'll bounce back next year. He can shoot the ball. He's good in the mid range. He's good defensively. Work on that 3-pointer a little bit, but I think that will come. He can shoot it well enough, so I think he's serviceable there. He averaged a double-double last year with almost 2 blocks, 1 steal per game. He's super well-rounded, and he's in the top 5, most definitely.
Yeah. Rounding out my top 5, I got Nikola Vucevic. He's definitely the top 3 shooting big man in the NBA. I mean, he was huge on the Magic. He didn't have any help around him. They traded him to the Bulls. They started to make a push, and then he got hurt for a little bit. That kind of took him out of the play-in tournament. But I definitely think that duo with him and Levine is one of the most deadliest duos in the NBA. I think they can turn it around this year, and I'm expecting them to be in the playoffs next year.
Yep, for sure, for sure. To round out my top 5, I got Rudy Gobert. I agree with everything you said earlier about him. He's the best defending big man in the league. He blocks, seems like everything. Won Defensive Player of the Year this year. He's just like you said. He's good on. He's underrated on the offensive side. I think can't shoot, but everything else I feel like he can do. He's good in the pick and roll. He can finish the lobs. He can do a little bit of a floater, back you down a little bit. But I think if he works on that, he's going to be right up there for in the top 3 for big men, and maybe even top 2. But just like you said, he's the best defender in the league, and he's definitely top 5. You can't leave him out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, that wraps up today's video. We're uploading this in the week. You guys will probably be seeing this around Wednesday or Thursday. But hope you guys enjoyed this video, and make sure to like and subscribe. Only 70% of people watching this video aren't even subscribed. So if you could click the subscribe button, it would help us tremendously. And we'll see you in the next video.